My next question was the obvious one, which is, okay, so I'm going to die early. Why? What's going to kill me? And this is where it gets really, really dark and depressing. So hello, you wonderful human of the internet, and welcome back to another video about autism. This time, however, it's quite a depressing video about autism as it relates to our life expectancy and the fact that we don't have much of it. I first came across this in a TikTok, which was spreading really gross misinformation, as TikToks tend to when it comes to life expectancy and mental health conditions. I've seen a lot of them being like, you're only going to live into your 30s if you've got such and such. And it's like, please, 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 God, go to Google. This is false. So anyway, the TikTok I saw said the autistic life expectancy was to 36 years old. And I thought, I think this has got to be bunk, because I'm 37 and me, the walking catastrophe, who's had eating disorders, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, all these things, I don't think I should be the one who's like pushing the boundaries of life expectancy here. I don't, and I've got multiple friends my age or older who are autistic. 36, come on. So I did my research, as one should, and I found that it was bunk, but that actually the truth is not much better. And the truth is really, really, really quite depressing once you dig deeper into it. So the true autistic life expectancy statistics that I could find were, if you have higher support needs, i.e. you're lower functioning, as people used to call it, your life expectancy is 38 and a half years old. That's basically it for the higher support needs people. However, if you are someone like me who is higher functioning, as they used to call it, or Asperger's as the category used to be, your life expectancy with autism is 58. Bear in mind the life expectancy statistics in first world countries for neurotypical people is in their 80s. So you're losing decades of life in life expectancy. So obviously, once I found this out, my next question was the obvious one, which is, okay, so I'm going to die early. Why? What's going to kill me? And this is where it gets really, really dark and depressing, because the first cause of death for autistic people is epilepsy. That largely relates to the higher support needs people, so the lower functioning people. Apparently there's a big crossover with epilepsy. Epilepsy can be fatal. And obviously if you're non-verbal and you don't have ways to communicate, oh, I feel a seizure coming on, there's a word, isn't there? There's a word for like the taste in your mouth or the thing you hear, or an aura, is that what they call it? Like that you're getting the aura of a seizure coming on. If you're non-verbal, you can't tell people you're about to have a seizure. And so it's quite likely that epilepsy is going to be fatal for you if you're non-verbal. But obviously, that doesn't apply to me because I don't have epilepsy. So I was like, okay, so what's cause of death number 2? Cause of death number 2 for autistic people. So I would say this is cause of death number 1 when it comes to high functioning autistic people. Suicide. Obviously suicide. And that's really tragic, because I don't like the idea of a long life. Honestly, I don't want to be here for a very, very, very long time. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings around that belong in a whole other video, really, when it comes to being passively suicidal and just thinking, I don't really want to act on suicide, but I don't want to be here. That kind of sums up my feeling most of the time, really. Certainly in the last couple of years, like I really have this feeling like I oughtn't to be here anymore. Like I feel like my batteries are worn down, and I feel like I've just overstayed everything like emotionally, physically, spiritually, I feel like I shouldn't be here, and I don't enjoy it most of the time. You know, so it's trying to be a positive person and give out positive vibes when actually a lot of the time you're just thinking, I don't fucking want to be here. I don't want to be here. I'm 37. It should have gotten better by now, and it hasn't, and I don't think it ever will. So that's kind of how I feel a lot of the time. So honestly, when I read this life expectancy, 58, I was kind of relieved when I heard about this life expectancy. But then you look up why you're going to die, and the reason is suicide, and you think, fuck, because that's not what I want to do. That's not how I want to go out. I don't want anyone to have to leave this earth because they have felt so failed by the system. They have felt so failed by the world. They have felt so unable to fucking get through and master their neurochemistry, that they've just had to go, I can't do this anymore. I don't want that for anyone. I don't want that for me. But statistically, that's how it goes. But anyway, there was a third cause of death listed on the statistics that I read. They only did 1, 2, and 3. The third cause of death was cancer or heart disease, which for some reason seems to potentially strike down autistic people earlier than other people. They don't know whether there is some link with heart disease or cancer when it comes to autism. This seems to be a grey area that no one knows about. However, I do think it needs pointing out that cancer and heart disease are always among the leading causes of premature death across all populations. So I would regard this as more or less a moot statistic personally. But the reason that this statistic is so alarming is that even though there are only really 2 causes of premature death in the autistic community, we're still only making it to 58 years old, which means that there truly has to be an enormous amount of epilepsy and suicide-related death in our demographic, which means that if you aren't epileptic, suicide is terrifyingly likely for you. And I think that is an awful reflection on not just how difficult autism is to live with, but also the fact that the mental health system is failing us on a grotesque level. I wish when they had done this study into autistic people, I wish they had studied the age at which people were diagnosed with autism, because I really, really do feel this must have a huge, huge impact on particularly the suicide statistics. That people who've had the understanding and the support all their lives, you know, people who at quite a young age already maybe have like a support dog, their whole family knows what's going on with them, they're getting extra support at school, they know they've got their stim toys, they're learning healthy coping mechanisms for their emotional dysregulation and their heightened emotions and their heightened senses and all the rest of it. They're learning to cope with that young. I feel like those people have the capacity to learn so many skills early enough that they're going to get through a lot of trials a lot better. Whereas the late diagnosis crew, we just learned to fuck ourselves up. You know, that was really all we were doing through childhood and through teenagerhood. We were being told, there's no reason you're like this. You're just being lazy. Just try harder, try harder. You're so intelligent. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to do this. Try harder. So we did, and it drained us and it fucked us up. We were bullied at school because nobody knew why we were so fucking weird. And I've seen a lot online too about kind of trauma when you're young, and the way that certain parts of your brain actually shrink and grow, that the stress centers in your brain actually get bigger. So you're constantly in this hypervigilant state, and anything triggers you and anything sets you off because your brain has actually grown and misshapen itself essentially because of trauma. And I do feel like I related to a lot of these things, even though my childhood I wouldn't call desperately traumatic, or even really particularly traumatic at all. But School bullying, fuck yes. You know, you're constantly hypervigilant all the time. You never get to relax, and that fucks your brain up so much. And then if you're still not diagnosed in your early 20s and your late teenage years, that's when you tend to turn to things like self-harming and eating disorders and alcohol or drugs and all of these things. And then you're heaping more and more and more problems on the problems you've already got. And even once you get the diagnosis, the system is not good enough. The system for getting therapy that is correct for us is not good enough. That, you know, I've heard people saying that CBT tends to be actually counterproductive, sometimes even damaging to people with autism, because it doesn't work with the ways we think. I was given CBT. It was just useless for me. It was just a complete waste of 6 months. Apparently DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, is that it? I think DBT anyway is the one that's maybe meant to be a bit better for us. I'm currently on a waiting list for that, so hopefully that'll be good. But like say, I'm 37 and I'm finally getting this. And like say, my calculation of my own life expectancy, as I say, because of everything that I did to myself when I was younger, I suspect I won't get past 50. So that gives me just over a decade, really. And at this point, you know, now, oh, we're trying to undo all these decades of shitty coping mechanisms and self-medication and all the rest of it. And, you know, when you're already passively suicidal and increasingly so, and then to see these statistics that, oh, my life's going to be short, because I can't take much more of this. What's going to take me out? Something's going to take me out? Yeah. No, it's going to be suicide. That is crushing. That is crushing. The system really, really, really fails a lot of us. So please, 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 God, be accepting of people who are self-diagnosed when it comes to autism, ADHD, these things. If they have really done their research, please be accepting of their self-diagnosis, because it is hard to get a diagnosis. It takes a long time to get a diagnosis, and you need the understanding. And honestly, even if you go to the diagnosis eventually and it turns out that you've got something else, well, if you have found things like stim toys actually help you and keep you calm, who gives a shit if you were wrong about the diagnosis? If you found something that helps you and that keeps you happy and keeps you around, I think that's a good thing. Self-awareness and finding the right tools at the right age is desperately important. And now you know how desperately important it is that our life expectancy is 58. And if you don't have epilepsy, the number one reason that you are likely to only live to 58 is suicide. That means we kind of need to stick together and help out anyone else who falls under this category, because that is depressing as fuck. And the amount of people I know who have attempted suicide in the past year is startling. Really, really, really startling. And obviously COVID and lockdown and everything plays into that. I also wonder, like, is it my age and the age of my friends? Are we suddenly reaching this danger territory where we all start to feel the way I described, which is that you've just been through so much shit for so many years that, you know, you're like a battered old pillow and all the stuffing's fucking coming out, and that there's just no stitching you back together again. That's how you start to feel. And yeah, anyway, like I say, I do have a lot more thoughts around being passively suicidal, and I'd like to talk about that and about various other topics that spring off from that, relating to mental health, death, the right to die, etc. But that's really a whole topic for its own video. But yeah, if you are seeing people spreading this statistic around that if you're autistic, your life expectancy is 36, please tell them they're wrong. It's not that low. It is not that low. So please don't go out and just do something crazy with all your savings because you're only going to live to 36. No, it's not a lot better, but it's 58. Tell you what, it's giving me thoughts about big decisions. Is it worth doing anything that's like a long-term big decision? Or is it worth doing something that you're going to enjoy in the short term? Like for me, I've been saving up for a house. But honestly, since seeing the statistic and since a lot of other stuff that's happened in my life and how I feel, I'm starting to think, is there any point though? Is there really any point making this big adult uncomfortable move that you're not even bothered about anyway? Or should you blow that money on the car that you have always wanted? Like, should you just blow that money on a really sexy car and have some fun in the short period of time that you're likely to be on this earth? But equally, when you've made it to 37 and you feel like you've survived so many bullshitty things and you've thought you were going to die before so many ages and you haven't, like by the speed of inevitability, you have somehow just carried on cranking up the ages and you've stayed alive. Is the same thing just going to keep happening? Am I actually just going to be here till like I'm 90 and I'm still going to be bleating on about like, I don't think I'm going to be here. No, I died, you don't know these things, and that's the difficult thing, but it does make you want to make some kind of impulsive, rash, have fun while you're alive kind of decisions, doesn't it, when you find these things out? But I would say if you're in your like teens and 20s, 58 is still a long way away. So, and who knows, you might beat that. Obviously, that's an average. People beat that. It's not like a definitive you are going to drop dead on your 58th birthday. Who knows? And things could improve. This is the other thing. Things hopefully, in terms of the mental health system, are going to be improving all the time. So things might magically become better, and we might all get this amazing support and fucking beat the odds and all live to be in our 80s and live to be cranky old people. But yeah, for me, I don't see it happening. I don't. So that's a depressing video. I guess the shiny happy note is that there will be, and there have been, moments of joy in my life. A lot of the time I don't feel like it was worth getting to this age. A lot of the time I don't feel it was worth getting through any of it at all. But there have been shiny happy things, and knowing all of you guys now is a huge shiny happy thing. And the Nostalgia Project, and having told you guys these stories, and having met all the people that I met in the Nostalgia Project, Ash particularly, neither of us wanted to get through our teenage years at all, and we did. And we had these fantastic 15 years together. And I do have so many happy memories, and I do believe in an afterlife. I do believe that I, as a entity, as a consciousness, will continue to exist after I die. So I will have gathered some things to look back on and some things to be happy about. Is it just that everything is so intense for us? This is the thing, that maybe we can only take this kind of 2/3 of a life because everything is so fucking intense for us. We do burn out quickly. We're weird, bright, burning little candles of weirdness, and we burn out quite quickly because everything is so much. And in a way that's, in a way it's beautiful that everything is so much, that things like my sense of smell, for instance, that I smell so many things that other people don't seem to experience. It's so weird to me when I'm like, wow, can you smell that flower? And there's nothing to another person. To them, this dimension of scent doesn't exist. And it's like you get to live with other dimensions in your reality. And you know, my experiences with clairsentience and with spirits and things too, that not everyone has, and that I probably put down to autism, really, and to just generally being too hypersensitive to feeling things. You get to experience a lot of weird things, and if any of it is true about soul contracts and choosing to be here on Earth and choosing these bodies that we're in, like I don't like and I don't really believe this theory because it just bothers me so much. I just think, why in fuck's name would I ever have chosen this life? Come on, why? I don't know. Maybe the extra senses and the extra intensity of it were what we wanted. And I would say that was a naive decision. But I feel like if any of us did choose to put ourselves here in autistic bodies, we must be the kind of crazy souls who were like, yeah, I'm gonna take like a heroic dose of magic mushrooms on my next trip to Earth. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go for life on hard mode. I'm gonna experience and see and feel as much as a man can before he gives out, or whatever the words are by Johnny Cash, before he repents, I think actually are the words. Anyway, this is getting very theological and weird, but it tends to when you talk about death, doesn't it? Everyone has their own beliefs, and I do think that my belief in an afterlife has probably kept me here. Because honestly, if I was a complete atheist and I believed that everything just stopped when you died, I probably would have done it by now. And I'd love to believe that. Believe me, I would love to be an atheist. But I can't. Not after the things I've seen and experienced. Like I can't believe that there's nothing. Returning to the subject, the mental health system needs to do better for us. And if you are autistic or you know someone autistic, please go out and have a lovely day and do something amazing with your day. If you have some free time where you're just sitting around at home and you're bored, go out and do something cool. If you've got like a local attraction somewhere that you've always wanted to go to and you've never gone there and you've got nothing on today, even if you've got no one to go with, just go and do something cool, because the likelihood is that you're not going to be on this earth for several decades as long as the neurotypical people around you are. So go out and enjoy shit. Hopefully in a healthy way, not in a destructive way, but go out and enjoy shit while you can, because we're living life on this kind of weird, strange fast track. And if you are feeling suicidal, then please reach out. Find someone to talk to, whether that's a professional, whether that's a friend, whether that's a family member. It can help. And I don't really know how to end this because it's just so depressing. But I hope you're doing okay. And at least it's not 36, huh? At least it's not 36. 58 is, you know, I mean, it's crazy because, like I say, there's a lot of people who like 58, that's like old. And I'm like, no, that's pretty young. But still, compared to me, like that, a 58-year-old would look at me and think, God, you're young. So it's still a long way. It's still a long way away for many of us. And if you're an autistic person out there who has made it over the 58 number and you're still rocking on in your 60s or plus, please drop a comment below and let us know. Actually, I do know one because obviously, like, autism tends to run in families. I'm pretty sure I know where I got mine from. And that family member, I believe, turns 70 this year. Maybe even 75. I'm so bad at keeping track of other people's numbers. So some of us actually do make it way, 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 way over the expectancy. It's not a, you know, harsh cut line in the sand. So who knows? But it is a bit of a sad statistic. So anyway, with that said, if you made it this far, thank you for listening. I will shut up now. So bye bye, over and out. Hope you're okay.